Sister, the Lord has lost his memory and only has me in his heart. Please grant our wish. The concubine knelt before me, acting out a scene of sisterly affection on the bed. My amnesiac husband looked at her with deep affection. That's right, I only remember one thing. To grant you the position of the legitimate wife. What a deeply moving drama of sibling-like affection between fish and water. I stood up calmly. Very well, go to the official residence. I will fulfill you both. After finalizing the divorce, he thought I hadn't seen. He turned and exchanged a triumphant look with his concubine. I said nothing and climbed straight into the carriage that had been waiting outside. What he wanted, I gave him. But what I didn't want, he would never keep. The wheels rolled over the bluestone road, making a steady, muffled sound. That sound was like a belated funeral bell, burying my 3-year marriage. I didn't look back at the gilded plaque of the Marquis of Yongan's residence. Nothing worth seeing. 3 years ago, I stepped into this cage full of joy. 3 years later, I tore up all semblance of dignity with my own hands and walked out. The incense in the carriage is my usual cool note, crisp, with a touch of aloofness. Wanching shoved a hand warmer into my hands. My palms were icy, and only now were they slowly warmed by this bit of man-made heat. I closed my eyes, and Xiao Jinyan's face flashed through my mind beyond my control. That face once showed concern when I caught a chill. He would hold my hand, warming me with his own body heat, muttering that I didn't know how to take care of myself. I snapped my eyes open. Memories are the solace of the weak, not mine. The carriage stopped in front of a secluded residence on the outskirts of the city. There was no plaque hanging over the doorway, only 2 simple, elegant lanterns. This place is called Tingxue Courtyard. I secretly purchased it 3 years ago with the dowry silver my mother left me. Xiao Jinyang didn't know. In the entire Marquis's household, no one knew except my most trusted confidants. Wanqing helped me out of the carriage, and the courtyard gate creaked open. Inside, the lights were blazing, and several of the most capable maidservants who came with my dowry were already waiting there. They saw me, and in their eyes there was no panic, only complete trust and tenderness. Miss, leading, Grandmother Zhong stepped forward. She is the elder who had served by my mother's side. Is everything settled? I asked. To Miss Hui, everything has been done according to your instructions. Nanny Zhong handed over a thick inventory. At the Marquis's residence, every land deed, shop, silver note, and antique or treasure you brought as dowry, nothing's missing. It's all here. Also the ledgers for the few businesses we've been running on the sly, and the rosters of loyal servants who signed ironclad contracts and have clean reputations. We've moved those too. I took the list, gave it a quick glance, then handed it to Wanqing. Burn it. I no longer need to keep these things on paper. They've long been etched into my mind. Wanqing led me into the inner room. Hot water and clean clothes had long been prepared. I took off the ornate gown that signified the lady of the Yongan Marquis household. Its intricate embroidery and heavy jewels felt like a shackle, pressing the breath from me. Only when the warm water wrapped my body did I feel alive again. Changing into a simple sky blue plain long dress, I loosely pinned up my long hair, holding it in place with a single wooden hairpin. In the mirror, my face was a bit pale, but my eyes were startlingly bright. I am not anyone's wife, not the mistress of the Marquis's household. I am Su Muyan, the daughter of Grand General Su Xiao. Su Muyan. Wanqing brought over a bowl of hot porridge. I didn't have much of an appetite, but I still forced myself to eat a few bites. The road ahead will require strength. Miss, are you still upset? Wanqing asked. Cautiously, I put down the bowl and looked at her. Wanqing, cutting away what's dead from your body will hurt, but after the pain comes rebirth. I take a booklet out of the hidden compartment in my dressing table. There are no words on the cover. I open it. Inside are dense lines of plans written in my tiny regular script about rouge, about face powder, about an entirely new business that will drive every woman in the capital mad. This is my rebirth. Meanwhile, at the Marquis of Yongan's residence, no doubt it's all jubilation. Xiao Jinyang and Liu Qingqing, those 2 executioners, are probably celebrating their victory, celebrating that this meddlesome elder sister has finally had the sense to bow out. Liu Qingqing will probably be itching to take over the household affairs and flaunt the authority of her new mistressship, and Xiao Jinyang, that arrogant and foolish man, will surely hand her the storeroom keys to soothe his beloved. He thinks the marquisite's foundation is something I can't take with me. He was wrong. The true essence of a household has never been those inanimate objects, but the people who run it. I removed the soul of the Marquis's household and left him only a gleaming, glamorous shell. He will soon realize that the name he signed on that divorce letter was not mine. It was the death warrant of the Yong'an Marquis's residence. Sure enough, at this very moment, another grand drama was unfolding at the Marquis's estate. Xiao Jinyang placed a heavy string of keys into Liu Qingqing's hand. His gaze was so tender it could almost be wrung into water. Qingqing, from now on, you are the only mistress here. Liu Qingqing's face flushed with excitement, and her voice was trembling. My Lord Marquis, I won't let you down. She practically ran as she rushed toward the storeroom. She had imagined countless times opening that heavy door and seeing the mountain of rare treasures inside. That would be the proof she had risen above everyone else. The key slid into the keyhole with a crisp click. The door opened. The smile on Liu Qingqing's face froze in an instant. No gleam of gold, no glittering jewels in the vast warehouse. There were only rows upon rows of empty wooden shelves. In the corner, a pile of old, styleless furniture lay covered in a thick layer of dust. A cold wind poured in through the doorway, lifting a few dead leaves from the floor and sending them spinning. How could this happen? Liu Qingqing's shriek pierced the Marquis's manners festive atmosphere. Xiao Jinyang rushed over at the sound, and when he saw the scene before him, his face instantly turned ashen. He strode in quickly, scanning row after row of shelves. Empty, all of it is empty. Even the things he rewarded Su Muyan with have vanished without a trace. Su Muyan. He spat out the name through gritted teeth, his fists clenching so hard they cracked. My lord, what are we going to do? The storeroom is empty. Our marquisate. Liu Qingqing panicked, tears streaming down. Xiao Jinyang took a deep breath, forcing down the anger in his chest. He pulled Liu Qingqing into his arms, his voice still relatively steady. Don't panic, she merely took her dowry and left in a fit of pique. Could she possibly strip away the century-old legacy of my Yong'an Marquis mansion? Without her bridal New Balance makeup, we'll do just fine. He comforted Liu Qingqing like that, as if he were trying to persuade himself. He stubbornly believed that Su Muyan was just throwing a little tantrum, and that what he had lost was nothing more than a few external possessions, but he didn't know this was only the beginning. A drama titled Collapse had only just raised its curtain too. The next day, dawn had barely broken. The chief steward of the Marquis of Yong'an's residence hurriedly knocked on Xiao Jinyan's study door. His face looked even worse than the weather outside. My lord, something's wrong. Xiao Jinyang hadn't slept well all night and was feeling irritable. What are you panicking for? Do you think the sky is falling? My lord, Mr. Sun. From the accounting office, head steward Liu, who handles purchases, and the kitchen, flower house, stable, a dozen or so stewards are all gone. The steward's voice was choked with tears. They were here last night. This morning the houses are empty. Even their bedding and rolls have been taken. Xiao Jinyang abruptly stood up. If the warehouse being emptied was Su Muyan's petty, retaliatory act, then the collective disappearance of the core servants was a betrayal that cut the ground out from under him. Those people had all been with the Marquis's residence for years. Some had even been there since his father's time. How could they all have left overnight? He figured it out quickly. Those people were servants of the Marquis's manor in name, but in reality, their indenture contracts had long been grasped in Su Muyan's hands through various means. Over the past 3 years, by mixing kindness with severity, she had already turned the entire internal operations of the Marquis's manor into a one-woman show under her command, and he, that self-righteous Marquis, knew nothing about it. Useless. Xiao Jinyang kicked a chair over, his chest heaving violently. Without these key stewards, the vast Marquisate residence was like a giant with its skeleton removed, collapsing in an instant. The servants, no longer restrained, began gathering to whisper among themselves. Those in charge of cleaning grew lax, the purchasers didn't know what to buy, and the kitchen even erupted into a quarrel over grabbing ingredients. The entire Marquis's residence was in utter chaos. Liu Qingqing tried to step forward and take charge. She put on the newly made crimson matron's robe and, imitating Su Muyan, gathered all the servants to give them a lecture. Everyone be quiet, from now on, this marquisate will be run by me. As long as you are loyal, I will certainly not mistreat you. Before she finished speaking, an old woman's sarcastic voice came from below. Oh, not even officially instated yet, and you're already acting like you own the place, a concubine, and you think you can boss us around. It was an elder of the household speaking, relying on seniority and not taking Liu Qingqing seriously at all. Liu Qingqing was so angry her face turned pale. You, how dare you, someone, slap her mouth for me. However, not a single person moved. All those servants looked at her with eyes that expected a good show. Liu Qingqing's authority, at this moment, became a complete joke. She could only stomp her feet and run off in tears to find Xiao Jinyang. Xiao Jinyang was at his wit's end and had no mind to care about her grievances. For the first time, he impatiently pushed her away. Enough, stop crying. The entire residence is in chaos. Can't you let me have a moment of peace? Liu Qingqing froze. This was the first time Xiao Jinyang lost his temper with her. Meanwhile, Xiao Jinyan's troubles were only just beginning. At the morning court, the moment he stepped into the grand hall, he sensed a strange atmosphere. The way his colleagues looked at him carried an indescribable, elusive meaning. There was sympathy, contempt, and more than anything, schadenfreude. Several impeaching officials who normally clashed with him gathered together and pointed fingers at him. Did you hear? The Marquis of Yong'an drove away his own wife, who comes from the household of the great general who pacifies the nation, all over a concubine. TSK, truly ungrateful. Remember back then, if General Su hadn't staunchly defended him, who knows whether his marquisate would have stayed secure, without the Su family's towering tree to shelter him. Let's see how he manages from now on. Those murmurs were neither too loud nor too soft, just enough to drift into his ears. Xiao Jinyan's face flushed red and then turned pale, and he wished he could find a hole in the ground to crawl into. He tried to explain himself to a colleague with whom he had a passable relationship. Brother Li, things aren't what they say. It's Madame Su who's jealous. The other waved his hand, cutting him off. Brother Xiao, trouble at home is a grave taboo. We've all heard of Madame Su's reputation for virtue among the noble women's circle in the capital. Take care of yourself. Having said that, he turned and walked away as if avoiding the plague. Xiao Jinyang froze on the spot. Only then did he realize that in these 3 years, Su Muyan hadn't just kept his household in order. With her intelligence and finesse, she had woven a vast web of connections for him. Those noble women, having benefited from Su Muyan's favors and kindness in daily life, would naturally speak well of him in front of their own husbands. Now, he has torn that net apart with his own hands. What awaits him will be endless backlash. At this moment, the Tingsnow courtyard is perfectly orderly. I sit in the chief seat, with 7 or 8 shrewd, capable stewards standing below. They are the shops I acquired in and around the capital with my dowry silver, where I've secretly cultivated my trusted confidants. Miss, we've prepared everything you instructed. Manager Liu, who led the group, presented a ledger. Inside is a detailed investigation of all the rouge and powder shops in the capital. I flipped through it, my fingertip tracing across a spot. The Baihuafang in the south of the city has the best location, but its goods are old and uninspired. Our first shop, Linlang Pavilion, is right across from it. I want you to take over that store within 3 days and renovate it. I took another stack of drawings from my sleeve. This is a new product I designed. One is a lip rouge. Unlike the dry cinnabar sold on the market, it's more moisturizing and its color is more vivid. The other is a face cream, with added milk and pearl powder. It has remarkable whitening and beautifying effects. The shopkeepers looked at the novel designs and astonishing formulas on the drawings, their eyes lighting up. They're all veterans in the business world, and at a glance they saw the huge business opportunity hidden within. Also, on opening day, we need to run an event. I looked at them and slowly laid out my plan. Send a trial set to every noble young lady in the entire capital. The first 100 customers who enter the shop will get one free with every purchase. We will also hire the most famous storyteller in the capital to spend 3 consecutive days telling a ugly woman's comeback story in the major tea houses, and within that story we'll feature products from our Linlang pavilion. After that combination of moves, several shopkeepers who had seen it all were already staring in astonishment. They looked at me with eyes full of awe and fervor, as if watching a god who turned stone into gold. I set down my teacup and looked out the window. The sky was already bright. Xiao Jinyang, your nightmare has only just begun and my grand performance is about to begin. 3 Liu Qingqing refused to accept it in the Marquis's residence. She endured the servants' snubs and was neglected by Xiao Jinyang, a fire smoldering in her heart. She had to do something to prove that she was the rightful mistress of this household. After much thought, she decided to host a flower viewing banquet. This is the most favored form of socializing among the noble women of the capital. When Su Muyan was around, the Marquis's household banquets were always the benchmark of the capital, admired by all. Liu Qingqing felt that as long as she could pull off a banquet of the same caliber, she could silence everyone. She began to imitate Su Muyan. She flipped through the ledgers of past banquets, buying and decorating according to the items listed there, but she had only learned the superficialities, not the essence. Su Muyan, when hosting banquets, knew what to save and what to spend. Every expense was just right. As for Liu Qingqing, she only knew how to blindly pursue luxury, rare flowers, exotic fruits, costly silks. Everything was hauled into the manor like running water. In just a few days, the already strained accounts of the manor showed yet another hefty deficit. The scene was set, but everywhere reeked of a nouveau riche vulgarity, completely out of place. A red and green tablecloth, haphazard floral arrangements, it looked just like a country stage. What embarrassed her even more were the invitations she sent out. Most of them sank without a trace. The noble ladies who had been on good terms with the Marquis's household all found various excuses to decline. In the end, only a few replies came. Those who showed up were all minor officials' family members, each wearing an expression as if they were there to watch a spectacle. On the day of the banquet, Liu Qingqing forced a smile to greet the guests. She wore her most splendid clothes and her most precious jewelry, yet it still couldn't hide the ingrained unease and shallowness within her. She tried to strike up a conversation with those official wives. Madam Wang, your outfit looks lovely. Which shop made it for you? Madam Wang gave her a smile that didn't reach her eyes. This fabric was a gift from Madam Su last year. She said it was tribute from the palace, so I imagine Miss Liu hasn't seen it before. In a single sentence, it left Liu Qingqing so choked up she couldn't speak for a long time. She moved around the banquet, trying to carry herself as effortlessly as Su Muyan, but her words were crude and her manners flustered. If she wasn't knocking over a teacup, she was calling people by the wrong name. Jokes, she practically made a spectacle of the whole event. The entire Hu family's face has been lost because of her. Xiao Jinyang sat at the main seat, the smile on his face almost unable to hang on. He watched Liu Qingqing shuttle between the seats like a jumping clown, and for the first time a strong sense of discontent rose in his heart. He began to unconsciously recall Su Muyan. I remember how poised and elegant she was when hosting a banquet, radiant with charm. She could remember each guest's preferences and could chat effortlessly with anyone with her around. There was never a dull moment, and everything was always so proper. By comparison, the difference is worlds apart. Things get worse from here on. In the middle of the banquet, a guest suddenly clutched her neck and began to have trouble breathing. My face, it itches so much. Everyone looked over and saw red rashes spreading across the lady's face. It is seafood. I cannot eat seafood. Liu Qingqing's face changed dramatically. She had no idea the madam had such dietary taboos. Suo Muyan, in time, would beforehand ascertain every guest's dietary taboos, and Liu Qingqing, in her mind, only thought of showing off. The scene was completely out of control. The guests panicked and hurriedly rose to take their leave. Xiao Jinyang had no choice but to apologize to each person in turn. Losing face entirely, a banquet that was supposed to win back his honor ended up becoming an unmitigated disaster. Late at night, Xiao Jinyang sat alone in the study. He didn't light a lamp, letting the moonlight spill onto the floor. As if compelled by a mysterious force, he walked to the desk Su Muyan had once used. It had once been filled with all kinds of books and ledgers. She was always here, handling those complicated official affairs for him, revising those riddled with flaws proposals. Now, the desk is empty, covered with a thin layer of dust. An indescribable emptiness seized his heart in an instant. It seems that only at this moment did he truly realize what it was he had lost. What he lost was not just a wife, it was also a comrade who could shoulder half the burden for him, a soul that could make up for all his shortcomings. He thought he had broken free of his shackles and found freedom and true love. Now it seems he merely shattered his most precious treasure with his own hands. The seed of regret broke through the soil in his heart for the first time and grew wildly. He shut his eyes in pain. All he could see in his mind was Su Muyan's cool face, tinged with disappointment. He wondered, if he hadn't staged that amnesia act, would everything have turned out differently? However, in this world, there is never any if. For on South Street in the capital, overnight a shop called Linlang Pavilion opened. It stood directly opposite the former cosmetics industry Baihua workshop, exuding an aggressive, pressing momentum. On opening day, the front of Linlang Pavilion was packed with people, nearly filling the entire street. I stood by the window on the second floor, quietly watching the frenzied crowd downstairs snapping up goods. Everything was within my plan. Innovative marketing tactics and a groundbreaking product quickly set the noble women's circles of the capital abuzz. There are more than a dozen shades of lip balm, each named after a poem. Refined and distinctive, the cream's texture is as delicate as snow, with a faint, fresh fragrance, and the effect is instantaneous. Oh my god, this Zui Hongzhuang shade is absolutely gorgeous. Hurry and try this Yurong cream the moment you rub it on your hand. It feels completely different. Exclamations of praise rose one after another. Those noble ladies who usually hold their noses high were now sweeping Linglong Pavilion's products off the shelves like money was no object. Even Consort Der in the palace sent her head steward to make purchases. Linglong Pavilion's reputation skyrocketed overnight. I personally oversaw the shop, and by leveraging the connections I'd built in high society circles over the past 3 years, I rapidly expanded the business. Those ladies who once benefited from my favors have now become my most loyal clients. Not only do they buy for themselves, they also tirelessly recommend it to those around them. Word of mouth fermented just like that. Xiao Jinyang first heard the name Linlang Pavilion from a business partner. The wife of that boss Wang is an avid enthusiast of Linlang Pavilion. Marquis Xiao, you must not know, the most popular shop in the capital right now is that very Linlang Pavilion. My wife stood in line for 2 hours just to buy 1 jar of their face cream. Speaking of which, I heard the shopkeeper's wife is an extraordinary woman, very skilled. As Xiao Jinyang listened, he felt an inexplicable twinge of discomfort. It wasn't until he sent someone to investigate that he was shocked to discover the truth. The owner of Linlang Pavilion, the establishment that had stirred up the capital's currents, turned out to be Su Muyan, his ex-wife, the one he had abandoned, whom he had thought would only remain in the inner quarters, tending to her husband and teaching the children. He still hadn't recovered from the shock when even worse news arrived. A royal merchant venture he was in charge of had fallen into dire straits. A shipment of top-quality silk transported from Jiangnan was robbed halfway. This batch was meant for the palace. If anything went wrong, he wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. He frantically sent people to investigate, and finally discovered that the goods hadn't been hijacked. They had been bought halfway by another merchant firm at a higher price, and behind that merchant firm, there was conspicuously Su Muyan's shadow as well. It's not that she's deliberately targeting me. I didn't know that batch of goods was originally his. This is just part of my normal business expansion. I need that batch of silk to develop a new product line. But in Xiao Jinyan's view, this was undoubtedly Su Muyan's most direct act of retaliation and provocation against him, a fatal blow. He was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. Without that shipment, he couldn't answer to the palace and would lose a large sum of money. The already tight finances of the Marquis of Yong'an's household would completely collapse. With no way out, he thought of Su Muyan for the first time. He decided to put aside his pitiful Marquis airs. He sent a trusted servant, bearing lavish gifts, to Tinjing Snow Courtyard. He thought that, after all, they were husband and wife. Surely she wouldn't be so ruthless. As long as she was willing to show mercy and return that shipment to him, he was willing to pay any price. However, the people he sent couldn't even get past Listening Snow Courtyard's front gate. Wanqing relayed my message coldly through the door. Go back and tell Lord Xiao, the separation papers have been signed. From now on, men and women marry as they please. We have nothing to do with each other. My lady and he no longer have any feelings for each other. The servant slunk back in. Disgraced to report, after hearing this, Xiao Jinyang felt his blood surge and his vision go dark. He suddenly swept his hand, knocking everything on the desk to the floor. Su Muyan, how dare you treat me like this? He let out a beast-like roar, his voice filled with resentment and rage, but he forgot. He himself handed me this knife now. As the blade slices across his throat, he finally starts screaming in pain. Too late. 5. The Imperial merchant's blunder was ultimately exposed. Xiao Jinyan's political rivals, in the court, denounced him with stern voices and fierce tones. They accused him of passing off inferior goods as superior, deceiving the emperor and flouting authority. In the past, Su Muyan would always prepare contingency plans for him in advance, eliminating all risks. She would tirelessly check his proposal, pointing out every flaw. Without her, Xiao Jinyang was like a soldier without armor, riddled with weaknesses from head to toe. The emperor on the dragon throne wore a grim expression. Xiao Jinyang, you run your household poorly, causing a citywide scandal. For the sake of your forefathers' merits, I will not hold it against you. Now, you can't even carry out an imperial commission properly. You have truly disappointed us. In the end, Xiao Jinyang was docked 6 months' salary and ordered to reflect at home for the Marquis's household finances. Already on the brink, this was adding insult to injury. The news of his fall from favor returned to the Marquis's residence. Liu Qingqing was the first who couldn't sit still any longer. She cried and made a scene, complaining that the household expenses were being cut again and again. My Lord Marquis, I still haven't paid for the new jewelry I had made. The kitchen says they can't supply Bird's Nest this month either. At this rate, our Marquis's manor will be laughed to death by everyone. Xiao Jinyang was already in a vexed, chaotic state of mind. Upon hearing her complaints, the anger he'd long repressed erupted in an instant. Enough, he slapped the table and glared at her, his eyes bloodshot. You only care about jewelry, Bird's Nest. Besides indulgence, what else can you do? Look at what you've turned this home into. Liu Qingqing was stunned by his shouting, then she screamed as well. What have I turned the home into? Is that my fault? Blame yourself for being incapable. You can't even handle a simple task, and you've dragged the whole household into poverty. You dare call me incompetent? Isn't it true? When Su Muyan was here, when was the Marquis's residence ever this downtrodden? Shut up, don't mention her. The name Su Muyan, like a thorn, stabbed deep into Xiao Jinyan's heart. The two had the fiercest quarrel they had ever had. All their affection was worn away to nothing in this fight. In the end, Xiao Jinyang angrily accused Liu Qingqing of only knowing how to take, calling her a brainless fool. Liu Qingqing, in turn, condemned him as a useless waste, an adult man-child who can't live without a woman. Feelings had developed an irreparable rift. Xiao Jinyang began feigning illness, staying in the residence all day and not attending court. He feared seeing the contempt in his colleagues' eyes. In private, he sent people to inquire about Su Muyan's news. Every word that came back felt like slicing his heart to death by 1,000 cuts. Su Muyan's business kept growing, and branches of Linlang Pavilion had even opened outside the city. Today she was having tea with the minister's wife. Tomorrow she'd be invited to a banquet by that princess consort. The scouts also said they saw the Grand General of the realm, Su Mo, personally accompanying Su Muyan to inspect the shops. The brother and sister chatted cheerfully, warm and harmonious. A few famously handsome young men from the capital gathered around her, showering her with attentions. Xiao Jinyang held the secret report in his hand, his knuckles whitening. The flames of jealousy blazed in his chest. That woman, after leaving him, not only didn't fall into hardship, but instead lived with zest and brilliance, shining brightly. Why, what right does she have to live so well? He stubbornly believed that Su Muyan was just sulking with him. Everything she did was to attract his attention, to make him regret it. Yes, that must be it. As long as he goes to her himself, sets aside his pride, and coaxes her properly, she will definitely have a change of heart after all. She loved him so much. Xiao Jinyang convinced himself with this absurd idea. He changed into his most respectable clothes, tidied himself up, and prepared to go to Linlang Pavilion in person. He was going to tell her that he had regained his memory. He is going to pick her up and take her home. He is convinced that what awaits him is Su Muyan's face, crying tears of joy. He is about to stage a heartfelt drama of a prodigal son returning, a treasure beyond price. 6. I'm in an elegant private room on the second floor of Linlang Pavilion, reviewing next quarter's accounts with a few shopkeepers. Wan Qing hurried in, her expression a bit odd. Miss Xiao, his lordship, Marquis Xiao, is here, he's downstairs, and he says he wants to see you. My hand paused for a moment, then continued turning the ledger, not seeing him. But, he said if he doesn't see you, he'll keep waiting. I lifted my head, not a ripple in my gaze. Then let him wait. Xiao Jinyang, just hearing that name no longer stirs the slightest ripple in my heart. I know exactly what tricks he wants to play, nothing more than that old line about bitter regret, but I am no longer the Su Muyan from 3 years ago who would soften at a single word from him. I lowered my head and continued looking over the account book. Only after handling everything did I slowly stand up. I looked down from the second-floor window as expected. Xiao Jinyang was still standing at the door. He was dressed in a moon-white long robe, his figure tall and straight, his face still handsome. It drew frequent sideways glances from many young women on the street. He put on a look of ardent longing, as if waiting for a wife who was late returning. How ridiculous. I turned around and left Linlang Pavilion through the back door. I wasn't interested in playing along with his act, but I underestimated his persistence. The next day, he blocked me right at the entrance of Tingsnow Courtyard. I had just gotten off the carriage when he lunged forward in a single bound. Yanga, he grabbed my wrist with astonishing strength. His eyes were bloodshot, and he was visibly agitated. Yanga, I remember now, I remember everything. He began his performance. It was my fault before. I was blinded by that bitch Liu Qingqing, which led me to do those foolish things. Will you forgive me? Can we get back together, like we were before? His voice was choked with emotion, sounding heartfelt and sincere. If it were someone else, they might truly be moved by his appearance, but I only looked at him coldly as if watching a ridiculous clown. Finished acting? I asked. Xiao Jinyang froze. He hadn't expected me to react like this. Yanga, you don't believe me. What should I believe you about? I shrugged off his hand, my tone laced with sarcasm. Believe your clumsy amnesia act. Xiao Jinyang, do you really think I'm an idiot? You lost your memory, yet you somehow only forgot me, and remembered to give Liu Qingqing the position of principal wife. You lost your memory, yet you still knew to exchange a triumphant look with her after completing the divorce. Each of my words was like a knife, precisely piercing through his hypocritical disguise. His complexion paled inch by inch. He was at a loss for words, unable to utter a single sound. Put away that act of yours. I looked at him, my gaze ice cold. The divorce letter is real. Once spilled water cannot be recovered. Lord Xiao, please mind your manners. Do not harass me again, or you will only appear more pathetic. Having said that, I turned to go inside. Just then, a luxurious carriage stopped nearby. The curtain lifted, and a gentleman as gentle as jade stepped down. It was the 7th prince, Zhao Yu. He and my older brother are close friends. Because of business dealings, we've met a few times. Seeing the scene before him, he slightly furrowed his brows. Then he took off his own cloak and gently draped it over my shoulders. In early autumn, the weather had already turned a bit chilly. Miss Su, it's getting chilly. Take care of yourself. His voice was as gentle as a spring breeze. Then he turned to Xiao Jian, his expression mild but the tone was cold. Lord Xiao, Miss Su has already separated from you. There is no further connection. Please do not trouble her again in the future. Xiao Jinyang watched Zhao Yu drape a cloak over my shoulders with such intimacy, and his eyes instantly reddened. Jealousy and anger gnawed at his reason like venomous snakes. This is between me and her. It's not your place, as an outsider, to interfere. He roared and tried to step forward to pull me away. Zhao Yu's 2 bodyguards instantly stood in front of me like 2 mountains. Lord Xiao, please go back. I didn't look at Xiao Jinyang again and gave Zhao Yu a slight nod. Thank you, Your Highness, for getting me out of a tight spot. A mere lift of the hand, I walked side by side with Zhao Yu into the main gate of Tingxue Courtyard. From beginning to end, I didn't spare Xiao Jinyang another glance, not even at his back. He was stopped by the guards outside the gate, and could only watch, wide-eyed, as I left with another man, chatting happily on the bustling, crowded street. He looked like a clown abandoned by the whole world. All pride and self-respect, at this moment, were trampled under my feet and crushed to dust. At last, he tasted what it feels like to be utterly ignored and abandoned. It hurts more than any venomous words. 7. Xiao Jinyang was turned away at the gate of Listening Snow Courtyard and publicly humiliated by the 7th prince. Fuming, he returned to the Marquis's residence. Naturally, he took all his anger out on Liu Qingqing. He stormed into Liu Qingqing's quarters and yanked her up from the bed. It's all because of you, you wretch. If it weren't for you, how would I have ended up like this today? His eyes were bloodshot. Like an enraged beast, Liu Qingqing trembled with fear at him, but soon, defiance and resentment rose to the fore. She finally understood as well. What amnesia, what true love. It's all fake. In Xiao Jinyan's heart, she was nothing more than a substitute for Su Muyan, a tool that could be used to drive Su Muyan away. Now that the tool is useless, it still has to bear all the blame. Xiao Jinyang, what kind of man are you? You couldn't keep Su Muyan, so you take your anger out on me. Do you think I don't know? You went to find her, you regret it, you want her back. I'm telling you, it's impossible. She now has a prince protecting her, living 100 times better than you. You're just a useless man she abandoned. Every word of Liu Qingqing's speech cut straight to the heart. Xiao Jinyang was completely enraged and slapped her hard across the face. Shut up. The two of them completely fell out and started grappling in the courtyard. Like two shrews from the streets, Liu Qingqing was beaten black and blue, and hatred surged in her heart like a raging tide. She refused to accept it. She absolutely could not sit and wait for death. Didn't Su Muyan open a place called Linlang Pavilion? If she's having a hard time, then Su Muyan can forget about having it easy. She secretly took out the private savings she'd stashed away and bribed a gang of city thugs, send them to cause trouble at Linlang Pavilion, smash the shop, and loot the goods. She naively believed that as long as Su Muyan's business was ruined, Su Muyan would be left with no way out and would come back to beg Xiao Jinyang. However, she underestimated me far too much, and she also underestimated the power of the Grand General's mansion. That gang of thugs had just rushed into Linglong Pavilion and hadn't even had time to make a move before a group of guards descended from above and beat them until they were wailing like ghosts. Those guards were all exceptionally skilled, specially sent by my older brother Su Mo to protect me. The thugs had their legs broken and were thrown at the Yamen gate. With a brief interrogation, they revealed the mastermind behind it all, Liu Qingqing. The next day, my older brother Su Mo, dressed in military uniform, personally stepped through the gates of the Marquis of Yong'an's residence. He didn't announce himself and barged straight in with his men. When Xiao Jinyang saw Su Mo, he was so frightened his legs went weak. Be brother-in-law, shut up. Su Mo kicked over the table in front of him, his gaze as cold as ice. I, Su Mo, don't have a brother-in-law like you, Xiao Jinyang. I came today to tell you just one thing. He pointed at Liu Qingqing, who was hiding behind Xiao Jinyang. Keep your woman in line. If she dares lay a single hair on my sister again, I guarantee that within 3 days, the Marquis of Yong'an's residence will disappear from the capital completely. Su Mo's voice wasn't loud, yet it carried the killing aura of 1,000 troops. That was a dominance truly honed on the battlefield. Xiao Jinyang was crushed by this imposing aura, unable to breathe, and nodded repeatedly. Why yes, I'll be strict with him, I promise. Su Mo let out a cold snort and, with his men, strode off. Only after he left did Xiao Jinyang seem to collapse, slumping into the chair as if utterly spent. He looked at Liu Qingqing, his eyes full of disgust and fear. This woman is a fool who ruins more than she accomplishes. He would not only destroy himself, but drag the entire Marquis's residence down with him. He ordered that Liu Qingqing be confined to her courtyard, without his permission. She was not allowed to take a single step outside. Their relationship had completely cooled to an ice-cold low. As for me, I never gave a clown like Liu Qingqing a second thought. With the help of 7th Prince Zhao Yu, my business empire expanded further. We joined forces and began venturing into the silk and tea trade. These are realms that only imperial merchants are allowed to touch. Our caravan opened up the southern trade route and brought back goods even finer than tribute. My commercial talent quickly reached the emperor's ears. The emperor greatly praised this woman of extraordinary courage and outstanding ability. By contrast, Xiao Jinyan's situation has become all the more difficult at home. It's utter chaos. With no peace to be found in his career, he hits walls everywhere, teetering on the brink. He's like a wrecked ship going down, while I am the great vessel cutting through the waves. The distance between us is growing farther and farther, so far that he can barely see my silhouette anymore. 8. After Liu Qingqing was put under house arrest, she didn't settle down. Instead, she became even more reckless. She could not accept the fate of falling from a phoenix perched on a branch back into the mire. One late night, she made a desperate decision. She pried open Xiao Jinyan's study, stealing the marquisite's land deeds and the few remaining silver taels in the storeroom. She was going to run, take this money, run far away, find a place where no one knows you, and start over. However, just as she carefully packed up her bundle and was about to slip out the back door, she was caught on the spot by Xiao Jinyang. "Where are you going?" Xiao Jinyan's voice was as cold as ice in the dead of winter. Liu Qingqing shuddered in fright, and the bundle in her hand fell to the ground. The deed and the banknotes scattered all over the floor. Caught red-handed this time, Xiao Jinyang didn't lose his temper at her again. He just looked at her with an expression of extreme disappointment and coldness. "So you're that eager to leave me?" Liu Qingqing simply decided to let it all go. "Yes, I don't want to stay in this godforsaken place for another day, following a worthless loser like you only leads to a dead end." The two had completely fallen out. All the ugliness and disgrace were laid bare. In the midst of the argument, Liu Qingqing suddenly clutched her stomach and let out a cry of pain. Her face went pale, and cold sweat beaded on her forehead. Xiao Jinyang was startled and instinctively steadied her. "What's wrong with you?" He summoned a doctor. After taking her pulse, the doctor's expression turned very strange. "Congratulations, my lord, this concubine is with child." Xiao Jinyang was stunned. Joy flashed across his face for just a moment, then was replaced by overwhelming doubt. He and Liu Qingqing hadn't, for a long time. A terrifying thought flashed through his mind. He suddenly grabbed Liu Qingqing's shoulders, his gaze sharp as a knife. "Talk, whose child is it?" Liu Qingqing's eyes darted away, and she stammered, unable to speak under Xiao Jinyan's relentless questioning. She finally broke down. "The child belongs to a guard in the residence. After being confined, she couldn't bear the loneliness and began an affair with that young, handsome guard. She had planned to steal some money and elope with him. Never thought they'd be caught red-handed. Double betrayal." Xiao Jinyang felt the green on his head was big enough to race horses on. The true love he prided himself on not only stole his money but also slapped a massive green hat on his head. The overwhelming humiliation and anger cost him his sanity. He tied up Liu Qingqing and that adulterer together and dragged them to the authorities. Thus, the family scandal was aired in public. The earth-shattering scandal of the Marquis of Yong'an's household spread throughout the capital overnight. Xiao Jinyang had completely become the laughingstock of the entire capital. He became the pitiful wretch who was doubly betrayed by his wife and his concubine. Everyone said this was his retribution. It was his coldness and lack of loyalty, driving away his virtuous wife, that brought about such calamity. Xiao Jinyang fell ill. His high fever wouldn't break. He lay in bed all day, rambling nonsense in the vast Marquis's residence. It was cold and desolate, and there wasn't a single person who would truly care for him. The servants all laughed at him behind his back. During his illness, he began to miss Su Muyan desperately. He remembered how, when he was ill, she had attended to him without even taking off her clothes to rest. He recalled how she had kept the household in perfect order, leaving him with no worries. Even her strict discipline, thinking of it now, seemed so precious. He dragged his sick body, struggled to rise, and began to write letters, one after another, all filled with remorse and pleading. He sent someone to deliver them to the Tingsua courtyard. But those letters vanished like stones sinking into the sea, receiving no response whatsoever. He doesn't know I'm busy working with 7th Prince Zhao Yu to prepare winter clothing for the border soldiers. It's a big business deal and a great undertaking that benefits the nation and the people. I've devoted all my energy to this new endeavor. As for Xiao Jinyan's letter of repentance, after Wanqing accepted it, she asked me how to handle it. I didn't even look up. Use it to start the fire. His pain, his remorse, what's that got to do with me? 9. Because he contributed to the preparation of military supplies, easing the urgent needs of the frontier soldiers, the emperor was greatly pleased. At a grand imperial banquet, before the civil and military officials, he issued an extraordinary edict and bestowed upon me the title Lord of Anning Township. This is a rank with a title and a fief. It means I am no longer anyone's daughter or anyone's former wife. I, Su Muyan, by my own ability, have won the glory that belongs to me from now on. When people mention me, it will no longer be as the Marquis of Yong'an's ex-wife, but as Lady of Anning. I have completely rid myself of all the marks that man left on me at the investiture banquet. I stood in the hall wearing the ceremonial dress befitting a lady of that rank. The lights are dazzling. By my side are my brother Sumo and the 7th Prince, Zhao Yu. They are genuinely happy for me. I carry myself with composure, chatting and laughing with the nobles who come to offer congratulations, radiant and poised. Xiao Jinyang is here as well. He recovered from his illness, but he'd lost a lot of weight and looked haggard. As the Marquis of Yong'an, he was entitled to attend the palace banquet, but he could only sit in the farthest corner at the very end. Like a shadow no one cared about, he gazed at me from afar, gazing at the woman who once belonged only to him, whom he discarded like an old shoe, and who now shines brilliantly. His eyes are filled with complex emotions: regret, pain, resentment, and something he himself has yet to notice. Or he sees me raise my hand and clink glasses with someone. Saw that faint scar on my wrist. That scar was left one autumn hunt when I blocked a cold arrow for him back then. He held me in his arms, heart aching to the point of madness. He said it was proof that I loved him, and he would remember it for a lifetime. Now, this scar is like a branding iron, searing mercilessly into his heart. He didn't know where the courage came from. Holding his glass, he staggered toward me. He wanted to say something to me, perhaps an apology, perhaps a plea. However, Zhao Yu beside me saw him first. Zhao Yu furrowed his brows slightly and, without showing any emotion, stepped in front of me. Xiao Jinyan's footsteps came to a halt. I still hadn't looked at him. I just looked at the scar on my wrist, then turned to Zhao Yu and gave a faint smile. Your Highness, did you know, this scar often reminds me of one thing. Zhao Yu looked at me gently. What is it? A person must know when to cut their losses. My voice wasn't loud, but it clearly reached Xiao Jinyan's ears. He seemed struck by lightning. His whole body trembled, and the wine glass in his hand fell to the floor with a clang. The wine splashed over one of his shoes in utter disgrace. My words completely severed the last hope in his heart. I used the proof of love he once prided himself on to deliver the most heart-piercing blow. He turned away, soul lost, and staggered out of the palace feast. He finally understood completely. What he had lost was not just a capable wife and a powerful family-in-law. What he had lost was the only stroke of luck in his life, and his best years. His psychological defenses crumbled completely at this moment. 10. Misfortune never comes alone. Just a few days after the palace banquet, the censorate discovered that the Marquis of Yong'an's household had significant deficits in its previous imperial merchant dealings. Moreover, there were also acts of passing off inferior goods as superior ones and swapping materials. These were all fatal mistakes Xiao Jinyang made in his rush for quick success. After I was no longer there to keep him in check, the emperor had long been displeased with him, and this time he settled both old and new scores at once. Enraged, he ordered a thorough investigation. The final verdict was that Yong'an Marquis's residence had deceived the sovereign. With conclusive evidence of guilt, the emperor issued an edict, stripping Xiao Jinyang of his Marquis title and confiscating all his family property. The century-old Yong'an Marquisate fell overnight. Xiao Jinyang plummeted from the clouds, landing hard in the mire. He was driven out of the Marquis's residence and, overnight, was left with nothing. Dressed in plain cloth, He walked aimlessly along the capital's main street. Those who once fawned over him now avoided him like the plague when they saw him, penniless and freezing. He tasted the full spectrum of human warmth and coldness. He had become a beggar wandering the streets. One day, he was so hungry he felt dizzy, and he saw the Linlang Pavilion's carriage passing down the street. On the carriage was the emblem of our Sioux family. He heard the common folk by the roadside mention my name, all with faces full of respect and admiration. Lady of Anning is truly a living bodhisattva. Yeah, she runs a charitable hall and has taken in many widows and orphans. I heard she even plans to start a girls' school so we women can learn to read and write. Xiao Jinyang hid in a corner, listening to these words, his heart a swirl of mixed emotions. He thought back to many years ago when we had just gotten married. He was once high-spirited too, holding my hand and promising to make me the happiest woman in the world. He said he would make his mark and build a career, so that I could be proud of him. The vows still ring in my ears. Reality gave him the loudest slap in the face. Enormous remorse and pain flooded over him like the tide. He could no longer hold on and stumbled to the front of the main store of Linlang Pavilion. He looked at the gold-embossed plaque and at the bustling scene of people coming and going inside. All of this should have included him. With a loud thud, he fell to his knees in front of everyone. Like a child, he broke down in sobs. His wails were piercing, filled with despair. At that moment, I was in the attic. Through the window, I saw the man downstairs kneeling on the ground, sobbing his heart out. There wasn't the slightest ripple in my gaze, neither pleasure nor pity. I turned around and gave Wanqing an order. Close the window, it's noisy. 11. Liu Qingqing's fate is even more miserable than Xiao Jinyan's. She was in prison, ignored by all, living worse than a pig or a dog in the end, for stealing from an official's household, and on top of that committing adultery. Her crimes were compounded, and she was sentenced to a heavy punishment. She was already pregnant. In prison the fetus was disturbed, and she died in childbirth. 2 lives lost with 1 corpse. When this news reached Xiao Jinyan's ears, he felt nothing at all. The woman he once believed to be his lifelong true love now no longer stirs even the slightest ripple in his heart. The only thought in his mind now is Su Muyan. He wants to beg for her forgiveness. He knew he no longer had the right to see me, so he thought of Su Mo. He ran to the gate of the Grand General of Zhengguo's residence, hoping to request an audience with Su Mo and that my elder brother, for the sake of past sentiments, would put in a good word for him. In the end, he didn't even make it through the front gate. Su Mo received the report and directly had the guards throw him out. Tell him that my Su family and he are completely severing all ties. If he dares set half a foot in the general's mansion again, break his dog legs. Those were Su Mo's exact words. Xiao Jinyan's last shred of hope was shattered. With his hopes completely dashed, his body collapsed entirely. He fell gravely ill, coughing incessantly and growing thinner by the day. On a winter day of heavy snowfall, he dragged his sick body to the gates of the Tingxue courtyard. This was his final obsession. He collapsed in the snow, curled up by the door. He thought that even if Su Muyan hated him, she wouldn't stand by and watch him die. After all, they had once been husband and wife. He lay there in a daze. This was his final gamble. No one knew how much time had passed when the courtyard gate creaked open. Xiao Jinyang used the last of his strength to lift his head. What he saw was neither Su Muyan nor Wanqing. It was a servant he had never seen before, a stranger. That servant saw him and showed a look of disgust on his face, but he still pulled out a few copper coins from his bosom and threw them in front of him. Since you're pitiful, take it and see a doctor. Don't die at our doorstep. Bad luck. With that, he moved to close the door. Xiao Jinyang struggled, peering through the gap of the door that was about to close. He saw the scene inside the courtyard. Red plum blossoms were in full bloom. Standing proudly against the snow under the plum tree stood a stone table with a pot of hot tea. Su Muyan was dressed in a white fox fur cloak, sitting across from Prince 7. Zhao Yu, savoring the snow and brewing tea. A serene and warm smile graced her face. Time was tranquil, like a painting. That beautiful scene stabbed harshly into Xiao Jinyan's eyes. He finally understood. He was completely out of the game in her world. There was no place for him anymore. She was doing very well. Very happy, and none of this happiness had anything to do with him. The door slammed shut without mercy. It shut out two separate worlds. With endless remorse and despair, he crawled up from the snow, staggering. He vanished into the wind and snow. 12 A few years later, my business empire's territory already spans the length and breadth of the country. Lineage no longer sells just rouge and powder, silk, tea, jewelry, and a money house. The Su family's firm has become the foremost commercial titan of the Great Jew. I made a lot of money, and I used that money to do a lot of things. I built bridges and paved roads, and provided relief to disaster victims. I established schools for girls so that those like me, talented yet confined to the inner chambers, would have the chance to read, write, and take control of their own destinies. Sujmo Yang, lady of Anning Township, had a reputation among the people that surpassed many princes and ministers. Prince Zhao Yu, the seventh prince, proposed marriage to me. He is a very good man, gentle, refined, and responsible. All these years, he has quietly stayed by my side, giving me a lot of support and help. Everyone thinks we're a match made in heaven. I didn't say yes right away. I said I need to think it over. My marriage can no longer be for the family or for anyone else this time. It has to be just for me, whether I truly love him, whether I'm truly ready to start a new relationship. On an ordinary afternoon, the weather was fine. I went to the south of the city, to the first charity hall I founded. The charity hall was distributing porridge. On a whim, I picked up a ladle as well and served a bowl of hot porridge to the poor people in line. The line moved forward slowly. A ragged, emaciated beggar shakily held out his chipped bowl to me. His hair was already graying, his face was etched with deep lines, and he reeked of a sour, rancid smell. I looked up, ready to ladle him some porridge. In that instant, I froze. I recognized him. It was Xiao Jinyang. He looked more than 20 years older than he did a few years ago. His eyes were clouded, filled with numbness. Years and hardship had worn away the last trace of a young lord. In him, scrubbed clean, he recognized me, too. Our eyes met. His lips began to tremble violently, and in his clouded eyes, tears welled up. In an instant he wanted to say something, but only a horsehair sound came from his throat. He couldn't get a single word out. In my heart, there was no surprise, no hatred, not even a ripple. I silently ladled a big spoonful of steaming porridge for him. The motion was exactly the same as when I ladled porridge for any beggar before him. My kindness is merely a habit. It has nothing to do with him as a person. Xiao Jinyang stretched out his badly trembling hand and took the bowl of porridge. The scalding porridge spilled onto his hand, yet he felt nothing. He looked at me, and at last his tears broke the dam. They were mixed with regret, pain, and endless despair. I didn't look at him again. I set down the spoon and handed the remaining matters over to the steward of the charity hall. Then I turned and walked toward the sunlight. Behind me was the past, lingering on in endless remorse. Ahead of me lies a broader, brighter future that belongs to me.